right, good afternoon, everyone. I'm CBS 12 meteorologist Charlotte Carl, and we are approaching hurricane season. So we're about to start receiving some hurricane season forecasts. Colorado states will be released later this week, and you're probably already seeing a few pop up on social media and maybe on news articles. Now, what you might be seeing is a little scary. Some forecasts are indicating pretty early that this is going to be an active season, but there's nothing that you need to worry about right now other than we need to start making our typical hurricane season preparations. And what that includes is, generally having your evacuation plan, what you're going to do with pets in the case that you need to evacuate. And with that, knowing your flood zone, having your hurricane kit at the ready. And we'll get into that at some other time. But right now, I wanted to break down what that hurricane season is likely to look like, and also why we are expecting it to look like that. So I wanted to start by explaining why we are expecting an above average season in terms of hurricane seasons. Now, last season, we were in an El Nino phase. That means that we have weakened trade winds and warmer water is pushed up against the coast of South America, and that increases the wind shear in the area where our hurricanes typically develop, also known as the main development region of the Atlantic. But we're actually entering a La Nina phase of the El Nino cycle. So I'm going to show what that looks like on our map right here. So when we get the La Nina phase, what happens is the easterly trade winds are actually slightly stronger than average. So I want to pause right here. So this warm pool of water actually travels out to the east because those trade winds are a little bit stronger. And so that pushes the warmer water to the west and brings cooler water to this pool off the coast of South America. So that cold pool actually works to increase wind shear in that area specifically, because the sinking air prevents or inhibits storms from developing in that area, acting as a sort of wind shear, while there is more development out to the west of that area. So that would be in the western Pacific. So in our area, what that means is we actually have more wind shear. We have less wind shear and more storms because they have fewer storms and more wind shear out in the Pacific, specifically in the Eastern Pacific. Then that means we have less wind shear and more storms. So a lot of the times during hurricane season, y'all will hear us talking about wind shear. Wind shear is hurricanes' number one enemy in their formation, because what hurricanes need to form is they essentially need a stack. They need a stack of low pressure and then high pressure on top. And when they get wind shear, actually rips that stack apart. So hurricanes really do not want that wind shear. So when we have decreased wind shear in our main development region, that is not good news in terms of our hurricane season outlook. Now, we are still a few months away, so these are very early season projections, and they're also very far out. What we are relatively confident on at this point in time is that we are going to be in a La Nina phase. We do not know the strength of the La Nina phase that we will enter into, and we also do not know how the, more short-term impacts on, we don't know what the short-term impacts on that wind shear will look like, because wind shear changes on a weekly basis. We saw some periods where there was decreased wind shear over the last summer when we were in an El Nino phase, which typically doesn't happen. Typically, El Nino phases decrease hurricane activity, but we had an above average season last year as well, mainly in part due to the ocean water temperatures in the main development region. So that's what we're looking at in terms of this hurricane season forecast. Obviously, we'll have those forecasts for you live on CBS12news.com or CBS12.com, and on air at CBS 12. So be sure to always stay updated with our latest forecasts online and on air. And we'll be sure to keep you updated as soon as we know what those forecasts look like for this season.